The purpose of this video and the things that are attached in the email is to help our students that might need our lessons and projects to be modified in order for them to access the content and the ideas behind them fully. So while you're watching this, consider your child and use some of the tips that you think may be helpful. However, some of the tips might be too much for each student. So encourage your child to do as much as possible on his or her own, and then add in a couple of things that you think that will just make things a little bit more attainable. And then if you feel that you need more modifications, please just email me, and together we can come up with some other ideas to support each student. So let's get started. So the first thing that I would do, whether you're choosing to do the landscape or the still life, and of course you're going to have to watch the supporting video to see what the lesson is about. This is only how to modify. But the first thing I would do is I would take a piece of paper and I would fold it in half, either whichever way your child wants to hold it, so that we have the top part, which would be the sky in the landscape or the wall in the still life, and then you would have the other part, which would be the land in the landscape or the table in the still life. Now, the next thing I would do is, depending on the child, you could talk about different lines that would show movement in the sky or in the sky or on the wall, and you could just discuss it and say, okay, maybe a curvy line would be a great way to show movement in the sky, and then maybe you draw one and then have your child kind of mirror that. You could also draw them with a highlighter and then have your child trace it with a black marker, and then you could do a wash of the cool colors on top with watercolors. I know I have a lot of painters in this group, a lot of kids that are really motivated to paint. So if you have access to paint, feel free to have your child draw all the lines with just a black crayon, and then just what I would do is I would take the paints then, and for the sky, you'd be using just the cool colors. So I would tape off, I would put a piece of like masking tape here, or tape a piece of paper to kind of hide the colors that they would not be using. Or you can actually take these and you can pop them out. Sometimes mine won't pop out. So I would block off the colors that they would not use. If you're using crayons or markers, then just talk about the cool colors, go through the colors together, and have your child pick out the 3 colors that would be used, or you can pick them out for him or her. So that's how I would do that. Then you can flip it over, or you could also take a piece of paper and cover up the part that you've completed, and then you can talk about the bottom. So if you're going to do the bottom, let's say you're doing the table, then you can take the warm colors for the bottom, and you could talk about different lines and have your child either trace a pencil line that you draw, or draw it with a crayon and then just paint over it with the warm colors as well. Essentially what you're going to create is either a landscape with cool moving lines in the sky and warm moving lines in the land, so that you can see where we would cut the paper in half, or you can create the background for a still life where you would have vertical lines on the top for the wall and horizontal lines on the bottom for the table. For both, we're just creating a background, and we need to save these pictures for the next month because we're going to be adding items either to our still life or objects into our landscape. Please email me if you need any more ideas. Encourage your children just to be creative. Honestly, whatever they come up with is going to be more interesting and beautiful than anything else. So I am really excited to see what our kids can do, and thank you so much for your help.